Hi friends, welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. My name is Heather. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my review of the latest and final Downton Abbey movie, Downton Abbey, the grand finale. If you're not familiar with Downton Abbey, it's a British set television series that was on from 2010 to 2015. There were 6 seasons. I never watched any of the TV series. I never saw any of it when it was on. I haven't watched any of it yet. It is saved on my Netflix list to watch at some point, but I've never actually seen any of the television show. My daughter and I decided to go to the first movie. They were originally only going to make one Downton Abbey movie as the finale for the series, and it was so popular that they ended up making 2 more. The first one came out in 2019, so 4 years after the television series ended. The first one came out in 2019, the second one came out in 2022, and now this third and final one, the grand finale, came out this year in 2025. It came out a week or 2 ago. I'm a little late to see it because I wanted to go to it with my daughter because she and I have now seen all 3 movies together, even though neither of us ever watched the show. I'm here at a hotel right now because my daughter goes to college in another state from where I live, and I was over here visiting. We went to the movie together, and even though it came out I think it was like a week and a half ago. I'm filming this on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. I lived in London for a time when I was in university. I absolutely love everything British. So I've really enjoyed these movies, and I like history too. And there's a lot of real life historical stuff that they brought into the Downton Abbey television series and in the movies. And then there's the whole upstairs, downstairs thing with the family, the wealthy family living upstairs and the servants that all operate downstairs, and the whole drama of everything that goes on. And then there's lots of relationship stuff happening in the show and in the movies. And so I just like all of it. I think it's a really well done, beautiful show. One thing that both Megan and I agree, and a lot of people say this, is that the costumes in these movies is really, really incredible. They do just a phenomenal job with the costumes and the historical accuracy, like their haircuts, the way people speak, all of it. It's really well done. So this movie was rated, gosh, I didn't even check. I want to say PG. It's either PG or PG-13. It picks up fairly, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's meant to pick up a similar number of years since the previous movie, so maybe about 3 years later. I will tell you that just like us, you don't necessarily have watched the show, the television show, to be able to enjoy the movies. However, we were just saying that it definitely would help because it would probably help cement the characters in your mind. Because the one thing that can make these movies, including this one, a little bit difficult for the viewer is there is a very large cast. And it's difficult, especially if you didn't watch the show, or just for us, because we only saw the movies and they were 3 years apart, you kind of forget who everybody is and how they're all related to each other. So one thing that I really appreciated about this, and I think they did this with the second one too, is at the beginning of the movie, they gave you a refresher. So they told you and reminded you and showed you scenes from the previous movie to show you, let's catch you up and refresh your memory from what happened in the last movie. And so they had a little 3-4 minute thing kind of reminding everybody of what happened in the previous movie, which I totally remembered that. But I still didn't quite remember who everybody was. And then, of course, they introduced some new characters in this movie, too, that we had never seen before. So then you're trying to keep them straight in your head, too. And the other thing that Megan and I also said and agreed on was that there's a few characters in Downton Abbey, in the main cast, that look a lot alike. So you kind of almost mix them up. And then also, it's hard, if you didn't watch the show, to remember what everybody's name is. Because sometimes especially with the servants, they don't always say their names. And then also it can be difficult to remember who's who because it was a very formal time period in history. And so sometimes when they're kind of casual with each other, with the family or with the servants among themselves, they'll refer to each other by their first names, like Mary, Edith, Charlie, Andrew, But then later they'll be Mr. So-and-so, and Lady this, Lady Hexam, and and you're like, wait, who is that? So it can be kind of a little bit tricky to keep everybody straight. But the main cast of characters is pretty solid, and you have no difficulty following the storylines that they put in each movie. Okay, so in this movie, the grand finale, there were kind of, I would say, 3 main storylines. The first storyline that I would mention is that Lady Grantham, she is American, and her mother in the United States has recently passed away. Lord Grantham, her husband, his mother, who was played by Maggie Smith in the show and all the movies, and Maggie Smith passed away. She also passed away in the previous movie. So they killed off the character, and then Maggie Smith died shortly after that. And at the end of this movie, it's actually, they show a portrait of, was she the previous Lady Grantham, that hangs in the foyer of Downton Abbey. And they say that the movie was dedicated to Maggie Smith, which was very nice. Both of their mothers, both Lord and Lady Grantham's mothers, have died. Paul Giamatti comes on, and he plays Lady Grantham's brother. And he comes from America with this guy, whose name escapes me, a new character we've never seen before. And they come to tell her and kind of report back for a visit of how they handled dealing with their late mother's estate back in the United States. Now, this movie takes place in 1930. And I said to Megan right at the beginning, I said, oh, that's right after the stock market crash. And a lot of people don't realize that the stock market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression did not just affect the United States. The Great Depression was actually a worldwide thing and had some pretty significant things about it that contributed to World War II, namely the Great Depression being an issue in Germany and Adolf Hitler using that as a means to gain power in Germany, promising the people of Germany, prosperity and a way out of the Depression. So, and that kind of led to World War II partially. They did mention the crash quite a few times, specifically in relation to Lady Grantham and her brother's mother's estate, and that the estate did not lose any money in the crash, but then the money got lost anyway because they trusted this guy. His name was Gus. And he kind of invested all the money with him, and it all got lost. Now, what actually happened, basically, you find out, is that he stole it. So that's one whole story, is that there's this guy coming in that supposedly was helping the brother settle the mother's estate, and he turns out to be, you get a sense right away, like, ooh, this guy's trouble, this guy's up to no good, and something happens with him and Mary pretty early in the movie, and that turns out to be kind of a whole scandal. So that's one whole storyline in the movie. It's like, Lady Grantham and her brother and their relationship and what happened with their mother's money and all of that, and how that affects the repairs and the renovations that are going on at Downton Abbey, because they were kind of counting on the inheritance from her mother to help with the repairs and the renovations at Downton Abbey. A second big storyline has to do with Mary, their eldest daughter. They originally had 3 daughters, Mary, Edith, and Sybil. And Sybil, if you watch the show, you would know she died right after delivering her baby, which was a big tragedy and a whole big thing. And so there's just the 2 sisters remaining. Mary is the eldest, and she was married twice. Her first husband, who she loved and adored, and everybody loved him, Matthew, he died in a car crash, leaving the birth of their son, George. That was a big tragedy and very upsetting for everyone. And then she remarried this other guy, again, whose name escapes me, and they never had a very good marriage. It never really went very well. He was kind of a playboy. He raced cars. He was gone all the time and everything. And you find out at the beginning of this movie that they have now gotten divorced. And I almost feel like it was just writing the actor off. But anyway, they've gotten divorced. And back in 1930, this was incredibly scandalous. And there's this whole scene where Lady Mary is asked to leave this party that they're at because she can't be here because she's divorced. And this prince and princess are coming, and she has to be out of there before they come, and they can't see her there. And it's this whole thing, like she's basically like shunned from proper society because she's divorced. And I'm divorced, okay? And Megan and I were like, gosh, I can't believe they use, the way that they treat women. And Megan even said, what's really sad is that in a lot of cases, women are still kind of treated this way today. But they talk about how in America, because some Americans are in this movie, that they didn't really care, that the society was more open-minded and freer in America, and nobody really cared if somebody got divorced and it wasn't a big deal. So the secondary story is kind of how, like, it's time for Lord and Lady Grantham to turn the running of the house over to Mary. But because she's divorced and kind of shunned from proper society, that complicates them being able to do that. And Lord Grantham is hesitant about passing things down, the running of the house, to Mary. So that's a secondary whole storyline that's taking place. The third and final storyline, which was probably the most entertaining, was there's the county fair going on. Mrs. Crawley, who was Maggie Smith's really good friend and also Matthew, Mary's first husband's mother, she's on the committee to help with the fair. And I think it's new for her. And there's this guy who I don't think we've ever seen before that has been on the committee forever and ever. And he wants things done the way he wants them done, and he doesn't want anything changed and all of this. And Mrs. Crawley invites Charles, the former butler of Downton Abbey, and the one young cook, Daisy, to come and be on the committee too, because she wants some fresh eyes and she wants their opinion and everything. And they definitely have things to say, and they have opinions. Like they talk about how the cattle weren't like well managed at the fair the last year, and how there was nothing in place for lost children and stuff like that. And they have some very practical ideas. And this one guy on the committee just is not having it. He just doesn't like any of their suggestions. But when they do suggest things and Mrs. Crawley kind of pushes it, the rest of the committee is kind of like, oh, wait, that's actually a good idea, So there's this whole thing with the county fair, and then like that's the end event is the county fair. That was actually like the most funny and entertaining part. And then the other thing that was really entertaining was a couple of people come back from the previous movie, plus Noel Coward, who Megan looked him up. And he was a real person. So this was an actor playing a real person that existed. He was a British playwright and composer. And there's a whole thing with the fact that these people are gay, okay? And he was gay. And that's kind of humorous too. And also like how accepting he is and how interested he is in Mary and her divorce. And like just everybody, he's just very interested in people because he gets ideas from everyone about things that he wants to make a play about. And it's kind of funny. He's just a hoot. And so that was kind of a delightful comic relief of the movie. So it's a really nice balance of serious topics, but also family dynamics and comic relief too. So it's a very well done movie. We've really enjoyed all three of the Downton Abbey movies. I would give this easily like 4 out of 5. I think Megan would probably agree with me. I would highly recommend it if you like history or family drama or British things, and you wouldn't even have to have seen the first 2 movies or the TV show to enjoy this movie. It just might take you a little while to kind of get the gist of who everybody is and how they're related to each other. But that preview thing that they do at the beginning, kind of refreshing your memory from the previous movie, or if you didn't see the previous movie, kind of telling you what had happened, definitely does help. And I very much appreciate that the producers of the movie add that part on. And I think they did at the beginning of the second one too, if I remember correctly. One other thing that Megan and I really liked is at the end, during the credits, they put up little videos, little scenes of each of the main characters in the movies and in the show at home, just quietly enjoying moments with their spouse, partner, family, their kids. And we thought that was, you know, just kind of in little vignettes. And we just thought that was a really sweet, lovely way to end it, because this is now supposed to be the final movie. So they basically made 6 seasons of the series and then a trilogy of movies. It just ended in a really nice way. Megan actually really appreciated that it wasn't anything really elaborate. Like the last movie was all about how they had this movie coming in and using Downton Abbey as a movie set and all these famous actors and everything, and it was kind of a whole big deal. Whereas this one, Megan said she actually liked that it was more kind of down to earth and simple and just regular life stuff that they were having to deal with. And I agree with that. It was kind of a nice way to go out. It just felt more, I don't know, normal or realistic or something. We both really liked it. I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. And that's my review of Downton Abbey, the grand finale. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming movie reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.